Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Allah reminds us in the Qur'an not to take it for granted and not to abandon it. He says in Surah Al-Furqan, chapter 25, verse 30, says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. He says, and the messenger has said, my Lord, my people have taken this Qur'an for granted. They've taken it as something like abandoned. So Allah is mentioning this, and He's saying that there was a messenger in the past who's basically saying that this Qur'an has been taken for granted, it's abandoned. Right? And the Qur'an is a recitation. The Qur'an for us is our guidebook that we're supposed to be living by. And in the month of Ramadan, it's a month in which we commemorate the Qur'an, but it's not only in the month of Ramadan, it's throughout the entire year. This is our guidebook. And what ends up happening is, when you abandon something, it means that you don't value it. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So there are some masjids, there are some mosques in the world. Giant mosques, people put so much time and effort to build them, to construct them, but they didn't take care of them. They were abandoned. Nobody's praying in them. They're developing, you go in there, there's cobwebs and there's dust and just, they're not being used at all. The same thing can happen to the Qur'an. If you've got the copy of the Qur'an, you've got different, different printings, and you got one that's embellished with nice art and everything, and you got it up on your bookshelf, and it's just sitting there, and it's collecting cobwebs. No one's reading it, no one's reflecting on it, no one's going through it. That's exactly what Allah is mentioning here, is that sometimes people can take the Qur'an, and they have it, they believe in it, but they abandon it, as if it's something that's not valuable, as if it's something that's not important. And this is something that's really happened, unfortunately, is that in our society, in Muslim society today, you find so many people emphasizing memorization of Qur'an, only recitation of Qur'an, but no understanding, no reflection, no application, no practice, none of that stuff. And it's almost like the Qur'an has become some type of like magic charm or amulet or something like that, where you just do certain rituals around it, and that's going to be sufficient for you. Like that's what Islam has become. But that's not what the religion was intended to be. And someone can have the Qur'an in their house, someone can say, I believe in this book, but it can still be abandoned because it's not being given its due right. Right? If you have a book in biology, you have a book in engineering, you have a book in mathematics, and it just sits there, and no one's reflecting on, no one's learning from it, no one is implementing any of those rules, what's the point? That book has been abandoned. If you have an employee handbook in your company, and they handed it to you when you got there to work, and you say, you know what, everyone, these are the rules that we have to follow, the procedures we follow in our company, and then nobody reads it, and no one follows any of those procedures. What's the point of the company handbook? It doesn't do anything. The guidebook doesn't help you at all. And the Qur'an is our guidebook in our lives. So it's not something that should ever be abandoned. It's not something that should be taken for granted. And there's different ways of abandoning it. One of them is not even opening it at all, not even for recitation or anything. And the second one is just reciting it or memorizing it, but not giving its due attention to just try to understand what it's saying. There are people who've been reading the Qur'an, reciting the Qur'an for 40 years, and they don't even understand, they've never even read the translation once if they don't know the Arabic language. That's a shame. And then beyond that, once you get the words down, go to the level of reflection, because that's actually what the Qur'an was designed to be. Not only to read the literal words, but to apply in our life and to reflect on it as well. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to reconnect with the Qur'an and to not allow us to be those people who take it as something obsolete or something that we abandon. Ameen.